So we are streaming live on YouTube now. Hi, Rainey. Hi, Dan. Good morning. Good morning. Happy New Year. There's Carmen. there's Carmen right there.
Hi, Carmen.
Hey, Michael. Welcome back.
Hello again. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
And Bob and David and Rainey and everyone. And Paul. Pizza. Don.
Ooh, nice, Rainey. Do you play?
Show that again, would you, Rainey? I missed it. What was that?
That was for you, Michael. I thought you'd
I
get
know it. I missed it. I was looking at the people. Oh, a bouzouki or a mandolin?
Is it a mandolin?
Mandolin.
Okay.
A bouzouki is just a mandolin with a thyroid condition, I figure.
I have no idea. I'm not even going to pretend to know. I do like to listen to it, though. All right, everyone. We are just waiting for Dr. Don Brown to join us. So once he arrives, we'll get started. In the meantime, does anyone have any questions? Need to know anything? No. Okay, welcome, everybody. And also, good morning, Lisa, on YouTube. God, you've joined us. We'll be getting started momentarily. Hold tight. Morning, Heen.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Giovanna. Good morning, Dr. Brown.
Good morning, Chi-Chi. See you.
If you want to join us for prostrations, we'll be doing that. Good morning. Catherine, can you hear me now? Give me a thumbs up if you can. The Dawn's getting mic'd up now, everyone.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me now? Is that coming through? All right, excellent. So we can do some prayers. We have, let's do Refuge Bodhicitta, and just the mandala offering. I think that's a good start. I don't have them. I know the Tibetan version. I can't remember. So many English versions. Okay. All right. Yeah, I got one.
Looks like page 34 in the Gold Prayer Book, and I'll pull it up online in just a second. Hang on one moment.
This morning when I was doing my prayers, I thought, well, that's before we launched into this refuge in bodhicitta. I think people don't. Is this thing on? Hello? Yeah. Okay. You know, we don't. Sometimes we don't really think about what we're saying. We just we don't have any mindfulness of what these prayers mean, or what we're just prattling, we're just parroting words. We're not really connecting with the meaning of the words. So the refuge in bodhicitta, the attitude that we're told to have when we do this prayer, and the first two lines, distinguish Buddhists from non-Buddhists. The second two lines distinguish those who practice the sort of the individual vehicle, Theravada, Hinayana. You hear those words, versus the Mahayana, which is we practice for the benefit of all beings. So that part of it is pretty straightforward. But the motivation for practice, there's actually three things. The first one is called dread or fear. Some people don't like the word fear. And in the scriptures, it says fear of the three lower realms, which doesn't get anybody out of bed around here usually. I mean, it's not something that we even have we can see the animal realm, but we don't know about these other realms. But we know about our mind. We know what a mess we are. At least I am. I'll speak for myself. So if we look, we can't even follow our mind for 10 breaths. Our mind is chaotic. We're caught in a process of uncontrolled causation called samsara. And we have no idea what's going to come. When we sit in meditation, we don't know what's going to be visiting us. Is it going to be some demon, or is it going to be a blissful experience? Are we going to be concentrated? Are we be chaotic? It's just random. We have very little control of our mind. And that's not a way to go through life. That's not something we want. I kind of dread that. And particularly as, when we're challenged, or I'm challenged, I'm dealing with old age, sickness will come, and death. And then, letting go of everything. And there's a lot on our plate. We all have things that are just queued up. Life is going to be difficult. And if we have a mind that's out of control, we're going to have a hard time. So we need to have a little compassion for ourselves. So this sort of dread of having a mind that's out of control, and realizing that the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the three jewels, can help us. That's powerful motivation. The second one is confidence. Confidence that we could actually achieve something beyond where we are. Like our mind is constantly in a state of change. We know that. There are actually practices where you can, I'm saying you, me, we all can actually experience our Buddha nature, which is this pure, empty nature of the mind that can evolve endlessly. We have Buddha nature. We all have some compassion, some wisdom, some power, some skillful means. We have a little bit of that. And so we have to have, we have confidence that the Buddha that we'll become, the Dharma that's realized by the Buddhas, and our realization of the Dharma, and the spiritual community that supports us, and our ability to become that for others. So we're taking refuge in our own Buddha nature, in a sense, our own potential. And then compassion for ourselves and others. So this is the motivation. There's dread of what our life is going to be like going forward with a chaotic mind and the consequences of that. And we can do something about it. There's confidence or faith. The Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are reliable guides. And then there's compassion for ourselves and others. That's why we do this refuge in bodhicitta prayer. So it's always good to flash on it. I went to spend a little extra time this morning, but it's good to flash on those three things before we do these prayers, so we just don't, they just don't, wash over us. In one ear and out, like the empty pot, the pot with the holes in the bottom. Doesn't stick. All right, so we'll do the refuge and generating bodhicitta 3 times. Maybe we should do 4 measurables, and then we'll do a short mandala offering. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my practice of giving and other perfections. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And then the mandala offering. Usually you want to offer something. My daughter's made me a mandala. I mean a mandala. So again, we're offering to the teachings are so precious and valuable that this is a offering that we traditionally do before teachings. It's auspicious to do a mandala offering, so we'll do that. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ranamanala Kamne Yatayami. All right, so then we're going to take just a couple of minutes to do your inversion. You can do 9-round breathing or just focusing on the in and out breath, but bringing the mind to a single, one pointedness, and just to let go of any distractions. So, 9-round breathing is always easy. You breathe in 3 times and out the left to the right to the left, and in and out, both nostrils, and out 3 times. So, whatever your flavor is, we'll do this for about 2 minutes to kind of bring us to a state of tranquility, hopefully. Okay, now bring your awareness back in the room. So, Kitsa Rinpoche gave these teachings on the 8 verses, right, of mind training. How many people were here for part or all of that? Yeah, a lot of you. Good. So that's it's really a famous mind training text, And before we go into it, I'm gonna read. I hesitated to do this, and then I decided to do it anyway. These are notes that I took from a teaching on the 8 verses of mind training about 25 years ago. So enough said. But this is kind of the gist of what it was about, and it's kind of so. Kitsa Rinpoche is going to give a more traditional rendition of this, but this is kind of part of the essence of it. If you want happiness in this life, the only possible way, and these are my notes, by the way, so I edited these. If you want happiness in this life, the only possible way is by serving others. Serve even those that attack you. Devote your life to giving others what they want and need. Reality is constructed that way. The wisdom of emptiness, or reality, makes this the only logical choice. We need to reach the point in our personal spiritual practice where we focus on others' good qualities. In reality, they're swimming in good qualities. This is the first step in taking care of others. Create a special relationship with people who are nasty to you. One good enemy at work is more precious than the Dalai Lama for you. We will learn from adversity. We will learn more from adversity than 10 days of teaching from the Dalai Lama. Look at the people you live with as your ticket to enlightenment. If you cannot get rid of the habit of taking care of yourself first above what others need, you will not succeed in achieving happiness. If you cannot get rid of the habit of taking care of yourself first above what others need, you won't succeed in achieving happiness. Anytime you have a relationship with someone else, they should come ahead of you. They should come out ahead. Take the loss yourself and give them all the gain. To the extent that you're able to give everything you can to others, do so. Make a career of it. Just decide that you're going to be last in line, always last. Try it. You can practice immediately. It'll make you happy. Try it for just 10% of the day. Check it out. So that's Lama Yeshe's. Check it out. Check it out. Well, it's kind of radical, isn't it? This teaching is sort of in your face. So let's go ahead and do the Khyentse Rinpoche's teachings.
Let me know if you want to pause it.
Okay, but we have until what time? 10:30? I mean 11:30, or más o menos. All right.
So today's classes are about the 8 forces, thought transformations, and this is very important teachings. Even though there's like hundreds of different types of mind training texts, and 8 forces, thought transformation is like almost like the root of all those mind training texts. It's very important. It's also beneficial, like to our mind directly, very beneficial.
Tene koroga nyamle chene nonye cheme bati nyamle chene tene tenga ngarusuluma yitulu pane ma nore te ita sosol semle peta chemo pem seba yores.
So the author, like Gilang Ritapa, he himself practiced all of that, day and night, day in, day out, like many years. So then that comes reflect, his practice basically reflects. It is a piece of paper that becomes like 8 verses, thought transformations.
Ni te langa te sudo kange ga yabo chene seru chese sel penge shiba chene seru chese.
Yeah, require your full attention.
Ah. Tenge la yo ma koro nemberes.
Rinpoche said, I just added that extra.
아스모텔라 다 좀뭐 제자 선반대 거는 제자 선반대도 실현이 못해 예대지만 되는 그래 만되는 그래.
Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. Begin with the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha.
Page 73. Oi, Tempa, Chonde, de,
Shazu Demba, Dewa, Sheba, Jide, Chemba, Chebo, Neye, Kalon, Lana, Meba, Lada, Minanje, Damba, Sanje, Chone, Pejawa, Shaja, Toba, La, Chanze, Lo, Chedo, Chazo, Sheo. Tije Sheva, Rajomba, Yamdaba, Dobe, Sanje, Riba,
Chabzo Dhamma Dewa Jide Jamba
Shevon de Kalon Jawa, Lana Meba, Lana Meno Jav,
Dhamma Sanje
Chumde de Pejawa, Shaja Toba, La Chaza Lo, Chedo, Chaza Jav.
Tempa chonde de
Sala, Sala, Da, Chanje, Samba, Samba, Chamba, Tije, Da, Duma,
Oh, page 97. Sub to
Chedo Tsoje Chono La Motivation for the teachings.
Tije, Da, Majo, Noge, Tado, Nyebe, Tije, Tomo, Che, Tento, Toja, Lana, Meba, Yandaba.
ya
Sorry, y'all, bear with us for a moment. Figure out what's happening. What are you looking for, Don? 161, page 161 is 8 verses.
Are you going to be able to solve this, or do you want us to launch into this?
I think I can solve it. Hang on. Maybe launch in for a moment while I troubleshoot. Sorry.
Okay, well, let's just read. It's auspicious.
Can-
to read
Don,
through the
can
verse.
you put your headset on so folks can hear you online?
It's always it's auspicious to just, I've used that word twice today already, to read the text, the root text anyway. So let's just read through the 8 verses, and then we'll mentally have made a connection.
Page 161.
161, right? Determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit for all sentient beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I shall hold him dear most dear at all times. When in the company of others, shall always consider myself the lowest of all, and from the depths of my heart hold others dear and supreme. Vigilant the moment a delusion appears in my mind, endangering myself and others, I shall confront and avert it without delay. Whenever I see beings who are wicked in nature, overcome by violent negative actions and suffering, I shall hold such rare ones dear as if I had found a precious treasure. When out of envy others mistreat me with abuse, insults, or the like, I shall accept defeat and offer the victory to others. When someone whom I have benefited and whom I have great hopes gives me terrible harm, I shall regard that person as my holy guru. In short, both directly and indirectly, do I offer every happiness and benefit to all my mothers, and I shall secretly take upon myself all their harmful actions and sufferings, undefiled by the stains of the superstitions of 8 worldly concerns. May I, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, be released from the bondage of attachment.
Do you want me to try again?
You can try again? Yeah, okay. Oh, while you're doing that, I'll say Robbie, you might, this is something stuck in my mind years ago when you were in Birmingham after I had left. And one of the guys that was in the little Dharma study group had cancer and he was dying. And I remember you telling me he would read this text every day and it gave him such joy and inner strength as he faced his death. Could you say a little bit about that?
Hang on, Robbie. We'll get a microphone.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, yeah, I mean, I remember that also. That was 40 years ago, but he found it very comforting. And, as we read those verses, I'm just overwhelmed by how contradictory they are to the way we lead our lives. I mean, they are just throwing everything upside down. Just change everything. It's quite amazing. And, we can give lip service to it and say these things gradually, but to actually think that way is, it's just night and day. It's just overwhelming. That, when we see these teachers like Gensho Rinpoche and Geshe Geluk and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I mean, this is the way they think. They're not having to argue with themselves or give voice it. This is the way their minds are, and that's just, to me, amazing.
And this is everybody, you hear the word CBT, all the therapists use that technology or technique, cognitive behavioral therapy. The Buddhism has been doing it for 2,500+ years. This is the ultimate CBT. It takes a little bit different angle, but obviously, it requires mindfulness. It requires being aware when our mind is going down one of those rabbit holes, and then catch ourselves, and then reach into our Dharma medicine cabinet. And okay, there's anger. Now, which medicine? Oh, yeah, this compassion. Let's pull that bottle off and think about it. Take the medicine and see if we can't solve our problems before we create more like that. Is it working?
단다드 성제 지도마 차스면 수야대 가서는 시작을 가로도 취녀야 될 공로야보 제용의 제도래 공로야보 제용의 제도래서
The reason behind reciting refuge prayer 3 times is to set up positive motivation for the teachings.
그이다다 다코로노라 요요래라 첸데라 네 나사 메바 대시 퍼스소바 용의 제도 취셔나요 아니 편도요 말레스 그러봐.
If you are engaging yourself into spiritual practice just for the sake of this life, probably not the best.
안에 체시말 나도 뭐에 공포야보제 토네라야 대시 퍼스소바도 편도라소바 퍼스소바제 슈나 손에 티컴도 요카야요 말레스.
Like such as motivation, like the next life maybe prosperity, like higher, like rebirth, just for that also not the best.
대변나 단다 제시말 뭐에 제바제제 토 테니슈나 단다데 노지레 가까이 셔라 사소소 야보지 마제는 편도 가까이 오머리 제이자티 제시마 오샤와 야보지 렘베체도 진예의 이나요 되게 주선로고 말해서
The best, the next human rebirth, doesn't guarantee like full happiness. It's going to be same like this one, all kind of complications. So that's not the ultimate goal.
다 그거 가루가 레디션은 안에 단다 테레 라나 메바 가루가 라나 메바 용다바 조베 송제제 공부 토네 안에 마게 세제 통제 송제지 살라 깨게 예소서부터 그거데 그거에는 다 그거 성제제 senje 숨바레스
The motivation that kind of motivates you to achieve full enlightenment, not just for yourself, also for full enlightenment for all the living beings, all the mother-centered beings. That's the best motivations.
세상한테 저로서 진예시 가디 제가 얘나요 어떤 그 끊어지도 손도 도가래 마도 근데 최는 로고 말에 계속해서 노지 최는 로만다 돼요 끊어라 레바레 최 자체보 최추 가른 로만다 돼요 끊어라 레바레 생에서 가야 되레스
So from now on, whenever we engage ourselves into spiritual practice, so that's the kind of motivation we must have, whether whatever we do become Dharma or not, it very much depend on the motivations.
제당한테 송자 당당다데 마게 세제 통 제제 된다 등 라나메 바용다 바 조베서 저 고모 토바차 대시도 주는 얘기 소소제는 네 그노 송제제 세제 스마다 다 되게 페이트를 할레베 자체 모레스
So if you motivate yourself, oh, I'm going to listen to this teaching to achieve full enlightenment in order to benefit all mother sentient beings, so then you are like made it become more powerful. Then it having the receiving teachings become like more beneficial.
대이자 다 단어 로조 취제마 숭에데 계시 랑더 통바전에 랑더 타마전에 라더니 펜버거 다 가동벨 라마치레스
So this text, the very text that I'm going to teach, is composed by Geshe Langri Thapa, who is from Pempo region, close from central Tibet, called Pempo. He's from there.
다 로조 취제마 쉬서 다 때문에 가자 나네 semche 통제라 예신 노버 레라비 전주 저베 성바에 다的接班人嘛说是他这个听到都是让人有是吧看着这就是呢那了一直就诺不得了别小的是你这把是呢那都目前话这个一直就诺不得那等等的早前不是这个度啊看着这一直就诺不得了对那啥这种东西来说吧真的用个药的吧这了真的可早前不这个药的是
So that's Ishinova means like wish fulfilling jewel. That's the very particular type of jewel called wish fulfilling jewel, Ishinova. So that people, they cherish their jewel so much because once if you possess one, so all your wish will be materialized because the power of that wish fulfilling jewel. So therefore, people cherish the jewel so much.
대이자 단데 게시 롱도 선배 그 할래가 말해서
This is stanza
내가 저 된,
1
ronde 때에서 용거 요래 내가 저 된다 요
So that particular like wish fulfilling jewel provide you to temporary relief, temporary benefit and relief. So it doesn't really provide you ultimate benefit.
대초 저비 선바에 다的接班者吧就他대초도 저바데 가르를 라는 바 용다 바 주베 성제제 공부대레스 예다 라는 바 용다 바 주베 성제제 공부대 안에 심제라 때는 용거 근데가 예제저 노발라 때는 용 도구만 누가 마게 심제라 때는 용거 근데가 제이다 나로 마게 세제 도제데 예제저 노발레 하베가 사와체 못 저거 요스
Here, ultimate beneficial refers to full enlightenment. So that is not like you are not going to achieve that depending on wishful jewel or Ishinabu. So that comes from heavily relying on mother sentient beings, all the other sentient beings.
대체 거야고 전세 가르를 해주시는 대초도 저봐 나는 뭐 용도 뭐 주베 성제제 공부를 봐서 어때 마게 세제라 때는 용거 누가 세제다 가르쳐 가로 마게 세제 도제 자청 그거야
I'm not sure if it's a problem on the actual video recording or if it's a problem in today's connection.
아테 나는 이제 너무 렐라 이제 저 너무 렐라 바이메 전체 가려야 되죠. 이제 저 너무 라테네 대근우체 대해서 용어로 맞도 나는 배운다 봐 두배 손제 공부용 도구면 누가 센절라테네 대 용어가 되네 라 바이메 전체 대해서
The reason why the mother sentient being is far more precious than wish fulfilling jewel. Wish fulfilling jewel doesn't provide or you don't receive the best beneficial refers to fully enlightenment. So you receive that because of the kindness of other mother sentient beings. So that's why the reason behind that mother sentient beings is far more precious than wish fulfilling jewels.
그래서 다 가도 왜 라마가 나로서로 마깔라 먹어요. 와 등에 전에 치쇠고요, 세고요. 다 나로서가 심제대 자 정보 치저거요. 그래서 얘나요 나로서가 도체 셰사도 또 도사도 강가로 세체래 돼요. 그래서 대다 다들 지금 문제는
I guess good break point here while we're waiting for the computer to catch up. So, how are sentient beings, particularly says all mother sentient beings are, so precious, I shall hold them most dear at all times. So, all mother,
It does look like it's today's connection.
is it?
Oh,
So all mother sentient beings,
마게 세제대 그다음에 뭐 용어가
yeah, I keep getting a message on my computer, which you may see up there, that there's a problem.
공무주 주스무가 공무주 세체발라
What?
So both
Don, what would you like to do?
well, let
cause
me
is
just,
like compassion. So compassion.
Yeah, now I
as
just.
soon as it goes on, we can, okay. Well, it looks like we're not going to have any connection, right? Okay. So I had it all planned out. Just going to show up and listen. Now I'm going to have to show up and talk. Yeah, Robbie.
I mean, just listening to this, speaking for myself, I see other people as a source of my problems.
Yeah.
And to see them as a source of my enlightenment, is just a total, you could say 180 degrees, but it's just an unbelievable way to think.
I'll go back to my notes.
Okay, but I mean, listening to these teachings this morning is just such a contradiction to the way we live our lives, and to think that there are actually people like Kensho Rinpoche and Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Geshe Geluk who think this way is unbelievable.
So the only way, if you want happiness in this life, it's only possible by serving others. So again, holding them most dear, because we have to have objects of generosity, of being, we have to have others to be in service, right? So it's only through being in service to others that we can generate even happiness in this life, much less enlightenment. And then serve even those that attack you. Devote your life to giving others what they want and need. So again, he said, again, in this, he says, like one good enemy is more precious to you than 10 days of teaching from the Dalai Lama. What? That sounds crazy, doesn't it? Because I don't want any enemies, but who teaches me patience? It's certainly not my friends or the people I don't know. It's people who push my buttons, And, we talk about this all the time, that when someone attacks us, it's the fruition of our own former actions. It's an opportunity for us to see where we went wrong, because we did that to somebody else. Now it's coming back to us. The real source of this difficult person and situation is our own self-cherishing mind. And it's only in dependence upon others who try our patience that we can develop inner strength and tolerance. This is one of the Bodhisattva perfections. There's no enlightenment without difficult people. And living with other people is a great way to find difficult people, because, the person that you fell in love with, eventually problems come up and difficulties arise, and then you have to deal with it. So is he going to come back on or no?
No, our internet connection is not stable. We're barely hanging on here. Someone shared on YouTube, though, that today's lesson is patience. Thank you for that.
That's a great, yeah, that's great, truism. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I always think of him as teaching experientially. And so I'm gonna reminisce about something happened many years ago. Actually, Robbie and I were at Kopan Monastery together. This is back in the early 80s, I guess. We were doing the November course. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he was teaching for like 4 weeks on the Bodhisattva's, way of life, the chapter on patience. And he just kept going over and over and over the same stuff until people were like, we were losing our patience, and, he didn't come out and say it, but he was giving us an opportunity to practice patience right then and there in that moment. It was amazing, skillful, the way he did that. Robbie and I, we kind of figured it out about a week or two into that, and we went, wow, this is cool, this is good. We turned, something that would have been lemons in the lemonade, I should say. I think it was a very positive experience from that moment on, when we stopped struggling against and realized that he was teaching us patience, and then it was a good experience.
And Don, someone else shared on Zoom, our enemy teaches us patience as well as internet connection.
Yes.
But Don, I am happy to pull the text up on the screen so folks online can see it. And,
that's good.
And then here in the Gampa, of course, it's on page 161.
Right.
So however you want to do this, we just can't do the video apparently.
Well, we'll move on to the next line then, unless Khyentse Rinpoche jumps in. Any other comments about that first stanza? Determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. I shall hold them most dear at all times. The wish-fulfilling jewel is this mythical jewel that can give you everything materially that you want in this life, right? But it can't give you happiness, joy, peace, and enlightenment. Only in dependence upon other sentient beings can we achieve that. But that's the take-home. That's the punchline, I think. So the second stanza, when in the company of others, I shall always consider myself the lowest of all, and from the depths of my heart hold others dear and supreme. Wow, that is not the American dream. That's not the way we think, is it? Yeah. So when in the company of others, I shall always consider myself the lowest of all, and from the depths of my heart hold others dear and supreme. So this is totally antithetical to our egocentric way of seeing the world, isn't it? Our ego, what's the conversation? The ego, I want to win. I don't want to lose. I want to dominate. I don't want to be dominated. I want to justify, and, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the list goes on. All the 10 non-virtuous actions are all predicated on self-cherishing egocentricity, killing, 3 of body, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, 4 of speech, lying, slander, harsh, frivolous speech, 3 of mind, greed, hatred, ignorance, abbreviated versions. And they're opposites, without self-cherishing, without this egocentric mind that we hold on to as I'm so important. By the way, I would challenge during the course of today and next week and whenever, really the rest of your life, keep looking for that I, the I that's sitting there right now. We think, well, my body is sitting, my mind is thinking, where's the I? Where is the I? And this sense of I that we have, where is it? I mean, we know we exist, but where is that I? And in Buddhism, the I that we're talking about that is a fantasy, like a hallucination, is not the nominal I that exists in dependence upon just a body and mind. It's a projected sense of inherent. We use a lot of language here, but it seems like it's independent. You get what I mean? It seems like it exists independent of everything, inherently, in and of itself, from its own side, hardwired. There is this sense of I, particularly when we get angry, have a strong emotion, we feel it's so strong a sense of I. When I want something or somebody offends me, we have this really strong sense of I. And so we project this false sense of I, and then we cling to it, and we call it I-grasping ignorance, and it's independence upon that mistake. Because that's not who we are. That's a fantasy. That's a hallucination. That's what Lama Zopa calls hallucination. We are empty of that I. That I doesn't exist, but we think it does. And so when somebody offends me, I get angry. And when somebody says nice things to me and strikes me with peacock feathers and whatever, I love them. It's like, it's all based on I, so greed, hatred, ignorance, pride, jealousy, 84,000 delusions, all are predicated on this mistaken perception of I. So I love I think Khyentse Rinpoche and Geshe always use an example of the rope, We think that I exist, don't we? Yeah, we do. And when they use the example of the rope, right? It's dusk, you can barely see the ground, and you see this thing curled up, and you go, oh my gosh, there's a snake. And you really believe it exists. But then when you get your flashlight out and you shine it on that curled up thing, it's a rope. It's just not a snake. So what we think exists, this inherently existent I, when we go looking for it with our flashlight of introspection and wisdom, we can't find it. So the thing that we hold most precious and is our biggest enemy, because it is the source of all the suffering from the beginning of beginningless time until now, this is self-cherishing, grasping ignorance, is a fantasy, it's a mistake. And it's possible to get enlightened when we can see through the illusion of self and see who we really are. We do exist, but nominally, in dependence upon a body and mind. That's it. That's it. No more, no less. No more, no less. So, what was this? When in the company of others, I will always consider myself the lowest of all, and from the depths of my heart, hold others dear and supreme. That is exactly the opposite of what my I wants to do. So again, another great antidote to selfishness. our self-cherishing I. That way you would have to go down to the Hindu temple to hear the word soul. Buddhism doesn't talk about soul. Soul implies something that's, again, this is what I read, and I think it's probably true, implies something that's permanent, unchanging, that, just goes through, whatever, lifetime to lifetime. Buddhism talks about consciousness, the continuity of consciousness, which is always changing. So there is no, Buddhism would say there's no soul, there's no self or soul or anything that exists permanently. Everything exists it's in a constant state of flux, and it exists in dependence upon causes and conditions, like a sperm and an egg, and parts. We have a body and we have a mind that has feelings, discriminations, compositional factors, consciousnesses, we call them the 5 aggregates. There's nothing that we can point to and say, that is soul. There's only the flux of the continuity of our body and mind. No, obviously, we're all unique. We're all unique. Yeah. I mean, that's not they're not incompatible.
How do you combine self-compassion while considering oneself the lowest of all?
Say that again, please.
How do you seek compassion for self while at the same time considering the self lowest of all?
Good question. Where's the Dalai Lama when I need him? No, it's a good question. So again, this is understanding that, for example, our perception of ourself is distorted to begin with. It's very egocentric. So it's antithetical to our instincts to consider ourselves as lowest of all. But this is a mind training technique. Ordinarily, we think we're the best. We think we're the most special. I get to go first. We don't see ourselves as the lowest of all. So this is, again, the 8 verses of mind training. We're trying to train ourselves to do something that's antithetical to our instincts. The self-cherishing I does not want to see itself as lowest of all. But it's a very powerful method. I mean, humility is if you see these great lamas that have lived and taught and retreated and have integrated these teachings, they're so humble. I mean, they treat everybody as if they were like better than they were. If you ever, the Dalai Lama is always, he treats everybody like they're higher than him. Yeah. So again, it's a good question. It's antithetical to our ordinary way of thinking. That's the way I look at that. And from the depths of our heart, hold others dear and supreme. So again, in my notes, I said we need to reach the point in our spiritual practice where we focus on others' good qualities. In reality, they're swimming in good qualities. This is the first step in taking care of others. So we need to focus on others' good qualities, and then hold them dear and supreme. For not only because they are, and they do have more good. Everybody has good qualities, bad qualities, right? But our egocentric mind, wants to focus on the negative, because that's mostly what we focus on ourselves. If you look at your self-talk, and psychologists have done this, I haven't, but most of it, 90+% of it, is negative. We're constantly putting ourselves down, comparing ourselves to others, and so on and so forth. It's not helpful. It's really destructive. So But insane, and to the degree that we are critical with ourselves, we're critical with others that way. And so here we're admonished to focus on others' good qualities. Not only their good qualities, but they're actually our ticket to enlightenment. Remember, we need others to practice generosity and ethics and patience, these, the first three of the Bodhisattva perfections. And enthusiastic perseverance as well, which is enthusiasm for the practice of virtue. So all of these depend upon others. And then, of course, teachers. Our teachers are others. The gurus are others as well. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, in this verse, does the heart mean the mind?
Say it again.
In this verse, does the heart mean the mind?
The heart.
Mind, we're using the mind to treat others higher than ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes heart. First of all, when Buddhists point to the mind, they point here. They don't point to the brain. This is just a bunch of mush with chemicals and whatever. I mean, it's not that the brain isn't, the mind and the brain, what Buddhism would call mind and the brain are interdependent, okay? But consciousness or mind, we usually think of it as, the word heart, mind is interchangeable. Would you agree with that, Dr. Watkins?
We'll be talking about that tomorrow night in Discovering Buddhism.
Oh, right. And bring your checkbook. Robbie has a vacation he wants to go on. Just kidding.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we don't have compassion for ourselves, and that was one of the questions, how can we have compassion for others if we don't learn to have compassion for ourselves?
That's a good question. And I don't know where you got that, the idea from that we're not supposed to have compassion for ourselves. We absolutely are. That is the whole point. In fact, the most compassionate thing we can do for ourselves is to get over ourselves. To get over this selfish, self-cherishing attitude where we always think, I'm number one, I'm the most important. That's the biggest obstacle for us stopping our suffering. So Buddhism would define compassion as the wish to be free of suffering and the causes of suffering, right? Well, that's one of them. But it's, we want to stop our suffering, and the best way to do that is to get over this selfish, self-cherishing attitude. And these 8 verses are all designed, every one of them is antithetical to the attitude of selfishness, which is, again, the best way to take care of ourselves, to have compassion for ourselves, is to practice these 8 verses, but understanding what they mean. Yeah. Any other questions? We've actually come to the end of the time. But anyway, if there's another question, I'll try to answer it.
Does anyone on Zoom or YouTube have a question? If you're on YouTube, you can put it in the chat. If you're on Zoom, just get my attention. Or unmute. Anything else in the Kadampa?
I know Peter has a question.
I just want to share something that I heard once. It said, compassion for all sentient beings that does not include yourself is incomplete.
Yeah. Well, when we talk about this, when we talk about the 3 principles of the path, right? The first is renunciation. And I remember many years ago, I asked the Lama who was teaching, I was in Dharamsala, India at the time, and I asked the Lama who was teaching at the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, I said, where is compassion in Buddhism for yourself? Because, there's always this emphasis, compassion for others. And he said, that's easy, that's renunciation. so what does that mean? So to have compassion for yourself, that's the determination to be free of suffering. That's the very first step on the spiritual path. Until we have compassion for ourselves and realize that we are suffering, first of all, we have to come to grips with the fact that we're trapped in a process of uncontrolled causation called samsara. We keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a better result, and it doesn't happen. And until we can see that until we have some compassion for ourselves, realizing that we're suffering, and furthermore, we have to have some faith that we have the potential to stop it. This is really a crucial point. We have to have some faith in our Buddha nature, that we do, that our mind is not hardwired, that it's changing always. And we, as Lama Zopa said, we can shape it like we can mold clay. We can shape our mind and develop it in any way we want to. We can go this way or we can go that way, depending on the choices that we make. So again, renunciation and the meditations that we generally do for developing renunciation, and these are from the Guru Puja. But the first one is to see the preciousness of this life and that it's short. So life is really precious because we can use it to get enlightened. We can use it to at least find more happiness and joy and peace. And boom, it could be over any minute. And the only thing that's of any benefit at the time of our death are the imprints, the spiritual imprints that we put on our mind. Are we going to freak out when we die? Or are we going to die peacefully? Really depends on how we've set ourselves up by the choices and practices that we've done. So we have to understand life is precious, could end any minute. And then the other two, and so we must practice the Dharma now. Have compassion for ourselves and do something about it now, because the situation is not good. And then we understand karma, that what goes around comes around. Positive actions lead to happiness, negative to suffering. Karma is expandable. You can't experience a result without creating the cause. Karma is never lost. Unless, of course, it's destroyed. Positive karma can be destroyed by anger. Negative karma can be purified. So we understand karma. We understand dukkha, pain, change, pervasive suffering, all of that. We look at those points and we say, this is a dire situation and I have the potential to stop it. I have faith in my Buddha nature that I can be free of suffering. I have compassion for myself and Alex Berzin, he defines renunciation, I like it, the determination to be free of suffering. That's compassion. I want to be free of suffering. But until we have faith or conviction that we could actually be free of suffering, those are just words. So we have to practice and actually experience the Dharma working in our lives. It's like, it's all words until you get in a situation one day and you're all of a sudden anger is beginning, you're using your mindfulness, right? You're practicing mindfulness all the time and you see anger beginning to rise in the mind. And your mindfulness, you notice that. And then you reach into your medicine cabinet of wisdom and you pull down patience. That tablet called patience, seeing, that anger is detrimental to me. That's just a mind state. It's impermanent. If I just sit here for another 20 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever, it'll go away. Whatever works for you, we need to be able to use the Dharma to solve our problems. It's only then when we've actually solved that problem and let go of the anger, we go, wow, it works. Then we have some faith. We have some conviction that this is really this actually worked for me. How cool is that? So it's only through experience, and that comes from practice, that we develop conviction, and then that's how we develop true renunciation, that I'm determined to be free from suffering because I know I can be free of suffering. because I've already tasted that. I stopped myself from creating ick for me and other people. Make sense? Okay, so let's do the dedication.
So dedication prayers are on page 32 in the Gold Prayer Book.
May all beings everywhere, plagued by the sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our grace.
Weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for your patience. We'll see you next week or tomorrow night for Discovering Buddhism.
Thank you very much, Don and Linda and everyone.
I agree, Hane. Hane, I just read your chat. It's great. I miss them too.